SMU fans, I come in peace and I bring potentially good news. Looks like SMU is not going to get totally shut out of college football playoff money. Welcome into the channel. I am John Kurtz here on this channel. We talk conference realignment, college football, college basketball all the time. Make sure that you subscribe and click that bell to get alerts when you know that I'm dropping content, including live shows on Wednesdays and Sundays, which are a blast. And we have fans from all corners of the college football world. So make sure that you get subscribed and pop into that to be talking college sports all the time. Also, like the video and let me know what you think in the comments. Does SMU deserve a full Power 5 share in the college football playoff? It was almost fully denied to them. Now it looks like they've reached a bit of a compromise, but I want to know what you think. Let me know in the comments. Like the video, and you can support the channel on Venmo at John-Kurtz-4. If you recall, SMU has now joined the ACC. They have done so by forfeiting TV revenue for almost a decade. A pretty crazy notion, but SMU is that desperate to get the call up to the big leagues, or at least the somewhat big leagues, with the way things are comprised in kind of a Power 2 world in college football these days. They are not the only Group of 5 team to get the call up recently. Obviously, the Big 12 did so with 4 schools before this past season. And those schools in the Big 12 got the Power 5 payout from the college football playoff, but that was not a given, unfortunately, for SMU, where the Big 10 and the SEC tried to put their foot down on this thing, not let anybody else coming up be able to have that ladder, kicking the ladder out from under them, so to speak, in that regard. And here is the latest update that we have on that. It comes from Ross Dellinger, who snuck this in a story that was also talking about Kirk Schultz and his latest battle with the Pac-2 and getting a chance to plead his case as to why Oregon State and Washington State should be able to get a full share of money from the college football playoffs. So you've got 3 schools really fighting this battle right now. It seems to be going better for SMU. Here's what Dellinger says. The Pac-12 isn't the only entity seeking a revenue-based decision at next Tuesday's meeting of the Board of Managers, this being the College Football Playoff Board of Managers. Presidents are expected to vote on a recommendation from commissioners on a compromise over revenue distribution related to SMU, which begins play in the ACC next year. At first at risk of not receiving any Power 5 revenue distribution from the College Football Playoff in its first 2 years in the ACC, SMU will see a portion of Power 5 distribution, College Football Playoff Executive Director Bill Hancock announced last week. Okay, so the 2 years part here is significant because in 2026, we have no college football playoff as of right now. That all still needs to be worked out and ironed out and finalized. But under the current structure, all the agreements are in place from 24 or through 24 and 25. So what's at stake here is 24 and 25. Presumably in 26, if the ACC and the Big 12 and everybody else are allowed to be around, and whatever the Big 10 and the SEC want to do, which it seems like they will, presumably at that point, SMU is just a member of the ACC, right? You're starting fresh and anew, and they are a part of the conference when you would be negotiating that contract. They were not a part of the conference when everything was put into place this past go around. So that's why the fight here is over 2 years. Now, as part of the compromise, SMU will get a 50% Power 5 revenue distribution unit in 2024, which would be about $2.5 to $3 million. And that is up from $1 million, which is the current Group of 5 payout. They would also get 75% in 2025, which will up them to $3.5 to $4 million. That is according to those with knowledge of the agreement per Ross Dellinger. So there's your SMU update. Not terrible, considering it looked like at first the desire was to not give them anything, to be able to get 50% and then 75%. That's not bad at all for SMU. They may not need the money as much as most because of the donor pockets that are going to help pay their way for basically this first decade in the ACC without getting the TV money. But even they need something, right? They don't want to get completely shut out of everything. And honestly, sort of a standing up for your own respect, basically, I guess would be the way to put that, right? Like trying to fight for a little bit of respect. Like, hey, man, you're not going to recognize us at all when you recognize UCF, Cincinnati, BYU, Houston, all the schools that wound up joining the Big 12. Like, you're going to do that to us. I think that has to be a part of this for SMU too, which matters a lot, especially if you see some of the infighting between SMU fans and in particular TCU fans, but just Big 12 fans in general. SMU desperately wanted a seat at the table. I'm not sure that desperation was looked upon very favorably by, for instance, the SEC and the Big Ten in this regard, but it does look like SMU has now picked up at least a compromising amount of money and a fairly solid compromising amount of money. As for the battle for Washington State and Oregon State, seems more uphill, right? They are not in a Power 4 league anymore. Their league has crumbled. They are the only two left standing in the Pac-12, and Washington State President Kirk Schultz, who is representing those two schools now, will formally present a proposal to college football playoff leaders in a meeting next week that requires the Pac-12 to be treated as a power conference in both revenue and voting rights for the extended future. So Schultz did talk to Dellinger and Yahoo Sports. That's where this is coming from. And look, wanting both full revenue and voting rights for the extended future, I mean, it's not going to happen. I can almost guarantee that, but maybe there is some sort of compromise out there where they can have something better than what it would appear that they're going to get right now. I would have to think that that's some of the play here for Kirk Schultz. And also, I would venture a guess that he would be shooting for the same rights as the ACC and the Big 12, because in the next iteration of the playoff, it will certainly skew toward the SEC and the Big 10. They will have more voting power than everybody else. They will make more money. They will take a bigger cut of the money than everybody else. You can take that to the bank. They have the leverage of being able to say, if you don't like it, we'll just walk and play our own championship. You guys will be totally left out. Yes, there are some risks with that. People talk about antitrust lawsuits coming out, and I'm sure it's not something that they really want to deal with. And all indications are Greg Sankey, Tony Petitti have publicly said, like, this is not about pulling away with just us, that the fact that they are teaming up right now. But there still is that concern, and they do have that leverage, which means there's no way that everybody is going to sit at the table with the same rights anymore. There have already been the quotes that came out that people are upset that Ball State has the same rights as Florida, right? A MAC school is an SEC school when it comes to voting rights, because in this iteration of the playoff, you've needed unanimous support to pass change. Schultz confirmed to Yahoo Sports that he has been granted a hearing to pitch the plan to the College Football Playoff Board of Managers. The virtual meeting is set for Tuesday. So also important to note, I think this is fair to note, he's not getting like an in-person meeting. They've had plenty of both digital and in-person meetings. They're giving him just a Zoom. And, you know, I guess if you just read into it the way you'd kind of treat something, and it's going to be more important in real life, right? If you're going to meet somebody in person as opposed to just throwing it on a Zoom call. Typically, that's not going to be as important or as high up your priority list if you're doing that. So Schultz's argument is, quote, we've been an autonomy 5 school and have resourced ourselves at that level for 25 to 30 years. Just because we were left standing in musical chairs, we don't feel that we should be relegated by no fault of our own. I mean, I can't blame him for trying. I can't blame him for making the case. He certainly is right. It was no fault of their own. And we all should feel bad about that. But that also doesn't mean that this seems like a very winnable case for the Pac-12. Wish the best for him. Hope they're able to at least get some money out of it, kind of like SMU was. So we will continue to keep our eye on this here on the channel. Make sure you're tuned into those live shows on Wednesdays and Sundays. Please like the video. Let me know in the comments if you think SMU, Oregon State, and Washington State deserve full shares. Are you on board with that or not? Let me know what you think in the comments. And you can contribute to the channel on Venmo at John-Kurtz-4 if you are so inclined. I appreciate all of you. Take care, and I will talk to you soon.